Thing on TikTok is to prove that anything.
Under the bright stage lights, he looks effortless, every note precise, every melody immaculate. But behind that flawless sound lies a boy who once hid from the world, mocked for being different, and haunted by the echo of his own perfection. Charlie Puth didn't just learn music. He felt it. Born with perfect pitch, he could hear a note and name it instantly, a gift that would one day make him a global pop architect. But before the fame, before the billion views and screaming crowds, there was loneliness, rejection, and a quiet room where he tried to turn his pain into harmony. He would go from posting covers on YouTube to writing the song that made the entire world cry. See You Again, a song that didn't just define a career, it defined a generation's grief. How does a boy from New Jersey, armed with nothing but a piano and a broken heart, become one of pop music's most precise hitmakers? This is the story of Charlie Puth, the sound of resilience. Charlie Puth was born in Rumson, New Jersey, a quiet coastal town where music floated through every corner of his home. His mother, a piano teacher, filled their living room with the echoes of Bach and Beethoven, while his father, a construction manager with a love for jazz, taught him the rhythm of patience and precision. From the age of 4, Charlie's life revolved around sound. He could pick up a tune and replay it instantly. Neighbors called him the boy who never stopped listening. But in school, that same sensitivity made him a target. He was bullied for his voice, his mannerisms, and his obsession with music. A scar above his eyebrow, from a childhood attack, would become a lifelong reminder of how cruel the world could be to someone who stood out. At home, the piano became his sanctuary. Every key he pressed was a way to make sense of pain. While other kids played baseball, Charlie spent hours recording songs on a simple keyboard, layering sounds with a child's curiosity and a genius's precision. He once recorded a Christmas album at age 10, sold it door to door, and used the money to help his local church. His first experience with the strange power of music to move people. In the silence of his small-town nights, Charlie wasn't dreaming of fame. He was searching for a voice, one that the world would one day never forget. By the time Charlie entered his teenage years, the small-town prodigy had become a quiet perfectionist. While others scrolled through early social media for fun, he saw YouTube as a stage, a way to share his music with a world that had never heard his voice before. He launched a humble channel called Charlie's Vlogs. The setup was simple: a webcam, a keyboard, and pure sincerity. No studio lights, no producer, just a boy singing from his bedroom. His covers and mashups began to spread quietly across the internet, carried not by algorithms but by emotion. There was something raw about him, an unpolished honesty that people couldn't ignore. Then came a message that would change everything. Ellen DeGeneres, impressed by his rendition of Adele's "Someone Like You," invited him onto her show. Overnight, Charlie Puth went from an unknown college student at Berkeley to a viral phenomenon signed to a major label. But his biggest moment was still to come. In 2015, he co-wrote and performed "See You Again" with Wiz Khalifa, a heartfelt tribute to the late Paul Walker. The song became an anthem of loss and hope, topping charts in more than 100 countries and gathering billions of views. It wasn't just a hit. It was a farewell, a comfort, a prayer. And it turned Charlie Puth into the voice of a grieving generation. For the first time, the world wasn't just hearing his music. It was feeling his soul. After "See You Again," Charlie Puth was no longer the boy behind the piano. He was the man behind the sound of an era. In just a few months, his life transformed from quiet studios to flashing cameras, red carpets, and interviews that all asked the same question: what's next? His debut album, 9-Track Mind, arrived in 2016, a polished, radio-ready collection that dominated charts but also drew sharp criticism. Some called it too safe, too engineered. For Charlie, those words cut deep. He wasn't chasing formulas, he was chasing feeling. But fame had its own tempo, and it moved faster than the artist himself could follow. Still, the hits kept coming. "One Call Away," "Marvin Gaye," We Don't Talk Anymore, and Attention. Each song revealed another layer. Catchy, yes, but meticulously built. Note by note, emotion by emotion. Behind every melody was a craftsman obsessing over frequencies, timing, and silence itself. Charlie became known as a studio perfectionist, a musician who could hear the smallest imperfection in a chord or a vocal take and fix it instantly. Producers marveled at his ear. Fans loved his vulnerability. He wasn't the loudest pop star in the room. He was the one who listened hardest. On stage he smiled and played with effortless confidence. But behind that smile the cost of perfection was growing heavier. He was the golden boy of pop, yet somehow the loneliest one in the crowd. Because in Hollywood, success shines brightest right before it starts to burn. Fame came fast, and so did the noise. Behind every chart-topping single, Charlie Puth was quietly fighting a storm no one could see. The media loved to paint him as the golden boy of pop, but behind the cameras, he was breaking under the weight of expectation. Endless tours, sleepless nights, and the pressure to deliver hit after hit began to eat away at his joy. The boy who once played piano to escape the world was now trapped inside it. Rumors of romance, with Selena Gomez, Bella Thorne, and other stars, followed him like shadows. Each whisper became headline fuel. He tried to laugh it off, but inside he felt misunderstood. "I became a caricature of myself," he later confessed. Everyone saw the smile, but no one heard the silence. Then came the burnout. In interviews, he admitted to losing himself completely, hating the very songs that made him famous. For months he withdrew from the spotlight, disappearing into his studio, chasing sounds that no longer inspired him. He battled anxiety and self-doubt, questioning if music was even worth it anymore. Hollywood had given him everything, and taken everything back. The perfection that once defined him had turned into a cage. There were no flashing lights now, no roaring crowds. Just a man, alone, staring at a keyboard, wondering if he'd ever play again. But somewhere in that silence, a new melody began to rise, a softer one that didn't need to be perfect, only honest. When Charlie Puth returned, he didn't come back with glitter and spectacle. He came back with truth. After months of isolation and reflection, he decided to strip everything down, the image, the polish, even the fear. He began sharing his process online. Not the glamorous parts, but the real ones. On TikTok, fans watched him build songs from scratch. A sound from his mouth, a beat from a knock on the desk, a melody forming out of laughter. It was raw, imperfect, and more powerful than ever. He called his 2022 album simply Charlie. Every track was personal, every lyric honest, heartbreak, anxiety, joy, humor, all mixed into one human frequency. Critics called it his best work. Fans called it his truest self. He was no longer chasing the pop charts. He was chasing authenticity. For the first time, Charlie wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was creating because he needed to. As he once said, "I stopped trying to be perfect. I just tried to be honest," and that honesty resonated louder than any hit single. The boy who once hid behind sound was now using it to show his soul. Charlie Puth had finally learned that the most beautiful notes come from imperfection. Today, Charlie Puth stands not just as a singer or producer, but as a symbol of vulnerability in an industry built on illusion. He's shown that perfection isn't the goal, connection is. From the small-town boy bullied for being too sensitive, to the hitmaker who turned heartache into harmony, Charlie's journey reminds us that pain, when embraced, can become art. Every note he writes carries the echo of who he once was. The lonely kid at the piano, the dreamer behind the screen, the man who learned that honesty could sound louder than fame. He didn't build walls around his emotions. He turned them into chords, and in doing so, he built something far greater than stardom. He built truth. As the lights fade and the music softens, one lesson remains. The journey of Charlie Puth proves that even the most fragile hearts can create the strongest sounds. If his story moved you, like, Share and subscribe for more untold stories of the stars who dared to turn pain into power. Because behind every hit, there's a heartbeat.